I've got the top of the hour, and I like to start on time. Thanks everyone for coming tonight. This is part of our regular series, twice a month, club support seminars in which we take on a single topic and ask someone with some expertise to talk about, to present on that topic. And then the second half, the remaining 30 minutes, is more of an open discussion session, questions and answers, limited, of course, to the topic that we're talking about. So Tom volunteered to lead this particular topic, and so I've got a little bit of background on Tom for those of you that don't know him. I don't have anything on Dave, although I know he's got a lot of experience in technology, specifically as it relates to how we present ourselves as public speakers and communicators. So Tom is one of our longest standing members in District 35. He goes way back. His education goes way back. Graduated from high school during the Truman administration, and he quickly entered the family business called Fairview Greenhouses in the early 50s, and has a lot of distinctions in that area. He's traveled all around the world for that business, or sharing his expertise in horticulture. And he's served as the director of the Chamber of Commerce in Janesville back in the 70s, and we're really glad to have someone of Tom's experience in Toastmasters. He's been in the organization since 1978, and he's won a number of speech contests back in the district contest back in 1982 and 1992, made it to the semifinals in Region 5 in 1992. And in 2019, he was honored by the district with the T Award, which is a award that past district leaders give to someone for a career, an outstanding career in Toastmasters, a recognition of his contributions. And he also won the District Prospecting Award, or was given the District Prospecting Award in 2019. We're honored to have Tom, as well as Dave Kocol, as our presenters tonight. So let's give them a hand.
Thank you, Keith. The future of Toastmaster meetings will always include and have attendance via Zoom available. But let me make it clear. I, or District 35, will never, ever advocate hybrid meetings as replacement or in-person meetings. In-person meetings have done their job for 95 years, and may God forbid they ever be replaced by hybrid meetings. Hybrid meetings augment our in-person meetings. But now we will have observers from outside of the Toastmaster area, and it's important that they like what they see and hear. Zoom meetings can divert us from decline in membership, and embracing Zoom meetings opens the door to innovation. And to those who say, and I quote, "I can hardly wait until we get back to in-person meetings," unquote. I agree, 100%. But don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. That said, there are many kinds of hybrid meetings. And David Kocol comes from a career in information technology that qualifies him to cover every aspect of our hybrid meetings. And as you heard, I come from a greenhouse background since childhood. I learned some basic knowledge about hybrids in horticulture. So let's start there. Botanists developed hybrid A and B plants by cross-pollinating them from the A and the B. And they came up with a plant that has more vibrant blooms, more pleasing fragrance, lasts longer, takes less maintenance. And when you liked what you got, they threw out plant A and B. Didn't need it anymore. They had a better one. The basic characteristics of both were kept, and it was named AB Deluxe. The objective was consumers would want to buy more of the new variety, and that would contribute to the bottom line. Commerce does everything for the bottom line. It isn't any different for an organization like Toastmasters. Toastmasters is developing a better meeting called a hybrid. We're just using a tool called Zoom. Zoom is not a meeting. It's a tool used to make a meeting that is fun, provides improvement in style, has rewards, and the result is just like the better plant. Prospective members will buy it. And that contributes to organization's bottom line. Our bottom line is called member progress. Commercial wants profit. Toastmasters want progress. Another hybrid comes by taking a vehicle and adding another different engine. It still has the same body, doors, seats, and windows. Nothing is thrown away, but they call it a hybrid. Toastmasters takes in-person meetings, combines it with a remote participant, inserts some apps, and throws nothing away. We have hybrid Toastmasters meeting simply by adding some apps that probably don't cost anything, don't need to buy a new computer, maybe just a new part or two, and it should make you look better, sound better, and nothing is thrown away. Just know that. If that isn't what your combined meeting is now, then don't call it a hybrid meeting. You can say you have online access to your club meeting, but a hybrid has to be better. And it isn't if the audio and video is less than the best. The biggest problem with online access to in-person meetings is poor audio and to a lesser degree, poor video, and neglect of what I will refer to as some good housekeeping. Some have good hearing and they can tolerate poor audio. But tolerating is not good enough. Tolerators soon become dropouters. Toastmasters is a first-class self-improvement communication program, and representing a hybrid meeting in anything less than first class is a serious mistake. I asked David Kocol, a member of Speak TV Media Club, your media person might want to join that club to have access to David and others in that specialty club where they have a unique twist on Toastmastering. Now, David is going to explain why the audio for the remote viewer with a laptop is less than good and possibly can even be caused by some person attending in-person meetings with the device. That will be the source of the poor quality from a remote viewer. I'm going to shut up for a while and come back with some non-technical factors that make a meeting a hybrid in appearance. David tells us what causes poor audio and how to fix it before the next meeting at little or no cost. And while you've got the mic, he will cover all the tech issues that he can. Think of if you need a break, David, I can cover some housekeeping issues until you signal you're ready to come back with some more information. Go with more from your tech background. The mic is yours, David.
Well, thank you for that lovely introduction, Tom. It's very flattering. I've had a chance to chat with Tom for a little bit, and I can neither confirm or deny reports that Tom has flirted with first ladies going all the way back to Eleanor Roosevelt, Margaret Truman, Mamie Eisenhower, Jackie Kennedy, and also Betty Ford. So having been a well-traveled man, I don't want to start any rumors, but I just wanted to, again, thank Tom for that introduction. The reason I'm here is to be helpful. I spend a lot of time communicating with my job. I used to do it full time as I drove and was doing training one-on-one with customers at customer sites, and this little thing called COVID came in. And we started doing a lot more work remotely. And we picked up some things, and we are implementing some of those things in Speak TV. Now, I'll be very brief about what I'm going to talk about, and I will let you ask questions afterwards to talk about very specific things. Now, one of the words that we avoid as Toastmasters is the word suck. And that's because we don't like it. We could say words like inadequate or subpar or things like that. But there are times, and show of hands here, if you've ever been in a meeting and the quality of one or more people in the meeting sucked. Okay. And you could raise your verbal hands too. How many meetings have you been to where you wish you could not be there because the quality was so bad? Not necessarily the subject matter, but subject matter is a whole nother thing. But if you haven't been, if you've been to a meeting that sucked, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So I'm going to translate what Tom was talking about and say that what we want to do is create meetings that don't suck, that people will actually be interested in, that they can partake in, that there can be debate if there needs to be, or sharing of opinion, but that we can all see and hear each other clearly. And so I'm going to start talking about that. The first thing I'm going to do is share my screen. And I'm going to go to Amazon. So one of the things we talked about and that Tom was talking about is that we need to be able to hear people and to see people and to have a decent quality of hearing and seeing. What I'm showing you right here are conference speaker microphones combination. Some of them are Bluetooth. You're seeing what the prices are here. They aren't free, but they aren't necessarily expensive. We'll show you how to integrate that with your seating plan so that members can all share with these omnidirectional or multiple microphones and also come from a central speaker so that everyone in the room can hear. So, and again, what did I do? I actually went up here and on Amazon, I went to external speaker with microphone. Again, some of these are Bluetooth, so you don't have to worry about wires. So we do have some choices with that. One of the other things that we had talked about is being seen. We're talking about cameras and webcams. If you wanted to have a hybrid meeting, you could do it as simply as a decent sized television, probably 32 inches or larger, that's connected via HDMI to a laptop. And then also, rather than using the laptop's built-in camera, to use a webcam. Now, different webcams have different fields of views. This first one here is 110 degrees of view, which is 55 left and 55 right. Depending on your seating arrangement, you may want to go wider with that. But it's not absolutely necessary that each person remotely can see each person in the hybrid meeting primarily because what we're concentrating on is the speaker. So if the camera has the speaker in the field of view, that's kind of what we're looking for. One more thing I wanted to point out real quick is that there are needs for lighting. When we talk about lighting, so can everyone see my face right now? Is my face well lit?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to show you why. I am now bringing up my phone, and can you see that there is a light shining right at my face? I also have an overhead light on. I don't know, is that any better? Can you see that? No, you can't, because I'm sharing my screen.
That's
So
right.
my light is actually similar like this. It happens to be on a gooseneck, and it's clamped to my desk. I actually have several lights. I put this one here because I like it. It's rather inexpensive. It's a USB light, and I can change light settings. Are you seeing the changes? I mean, I can really white out on this.
Can see, yep, can watch it change.
Oh,
Yeah. And that one's actually a yellow light, so it makes my skin color look a little different. So as Toastmasters, especially if you are competing on stage or you are competing in a speech contest, don't you want to give yourself the biggest advantage that you can? And I'm going to go back to the 1960 presidential election where Nixon and Kennedy were debating. And Nixon looked bad. He was sweating. Kennedy wore makeup. He was calm and collected. And the perceptions that were made just on physical looks alone, the judgments that we make, made such a huge difference that I think it changed the face of the election. So we've talked about that. Tom, do we want to stop and talk about classroom settings right now, or do you want to do a little housekeeping, or where are we headed next?
If you want to, as long as you got a screen share, if you want to show some of the room layouts.
Excellent. All right, and we went in and we did some checking on room layouts, and oh, it doesn't like that. We're going to go to pictures. You get to see all my stuff. And so we have different layouts here. This is the boardroom layout. Does that look like a lot of different meeting rooms?
I only gave you a couple, and that's all we need. There's one corporate boardroom.
Yeah, can everyone see that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so I like this one the best. If you ended up putting a large 32-inch or larger television at the foot of the table and had your speakers speaking toward it, and that's where your webcam was, all the members would be looking at the television, which would also mean all the remote attendees would look like they're being considered and being viewed. So we like this setup. I think it's a very friendly setup, but its disadvantages is that once you get to a bigger size or you get a lot more people in the hybrid meetings, it becomes difficult to manage.
There probably aren't many clubs that have a room that accommodates this kind of a setup, but it would be ideal, because at the end of the room where you see that the screen is where the lectern would be, and every individual in the audience is going to be visible to the people that are attending from their home or a different location. But this, if you can have this, it's ideal. Few can have it. Can you put on the one for the classroom setting?
Sure. So I found this one too, Tom. We're going to call this the adult classroom.
The thing we have to watch is, again, up on the head of the room where the table would be, the lectern. That's where the camera will be. Am I correct, David?
I would actually have the the speaker at the bottom of the U and put the camera in front of the television at the top of the U.
Explain to the people that have a camera that's viewing the audience, how that the camera has a limit on how wide it will view.
Right, and I mentioned before about field of view. There are some cameras that will go up to 170 and actually have a very wide field of view,
Put that
or
170 in feet.
170 degrees.
170
So
degrees.
the farther away you are from the camera, the more likely you are to be in the shot.
So a club would have to experiment with that, so they set up the table so that no one is excluded from the view.
Well, it's not necessarily important that all members get. In this particular situation, you could move the sides of the U in closer. In fact, if you brought them together, you could actually make a T, and the speaker could speak from the top of the T, and the monitor and camera would be at the bottom of the T.
When I got into our club meeting room, which is at Blackhawk Technical College, the room is set up in what I call a classroom setting. The tables are banquet tables that are set end to end, and there may be 4 or up to 6. And the camera will not pick up the people that are sitting on the extreme ends. So I would suggest those chairs be taken away if you don't need them. If they're there, they'll use them, but take them away. And even chairs that are too far in the back of the room, take them away. But if you can rearrange the tables, and in our meeting room at the college, that's easy to do because there's 4 wheels on every table. And I like to set them up in a herringbone pattern with an aisle down the middle. If you're going to have people come to the lectern for the meeting, you want to consider the shortest distance from the furthest away person. I like that arrangement right there. I would probably have that aisle in the middle a little bit narrower so that we can have people sitting. That will accommodate, if you put 3 people at a chair, you can tell me how many that accommodates. The layout of the room is important. Again, if I visit a club meeting virtually and don't see who's there, or see nothing but the back of their head and never see their face, I'm not going to be happy with attending that meeting. So keep it in mind and experiment with the room setting and make it as usable as you can so everybody is noticeable. And make the distance from where the person's going to walk from the furthest away to the lectern the shortest distance possible, because that takes time. And some meetings are an hour long, and some of them
Tom?
not long enough. So
Tom, I think we have a question.
go ahead.
Grace, do you have a question?
No, I just forgot to tip my hand down, sorry.
Oh, okay, you were just being handy. Okay,
That's
Okay.
me, Miss Handy.
I
All
have
right.
some questions though.
Yeah, we've got a few items in the chat window. So the format we typically like to use here is about half an hour of presentation, and then we'll take the second half for questions and answers. And we've got some comments already in the chat window, so we'll get to that shortly.
Back to you, David.
Thank you. Did you or anything else you wanted to say about this, Tom?
Excuse me?
Anything else you wanted to say about this particular layout?
No. All through with the room layout.
Okay, excellent. So I'm going to just bring up my notes here and take a look. One of the things I haven't mentioned yet was background. And so if you go ahead and take a look at my background, you can see that it's a video. Did people know that you can actually use videos as your background? Yes, you can.
Yes, you can.
Not only that, but we could have some fun with backgrounds. So I'm going to go ahead and just change my background. What is it now?
Blur.
Yeah, it's blurred. So it's whatever's
house.
going on, right? It's whatever's going on, but it's without definition, which makes it easier to deal with. I also have some virtual backgrounds, some
My
that are fun,
My comment with that background is it doesn't relate to your subject.
not in the least, nor does this one.
Should it?
Well, what a great question. Let me ask you about backgrounds. How about this one?
Very confusing, very distracting.
It is very distracting, and this is something that my company put together that they're encouraging for their backgrounds. But I'm going to give you what I think is the absolute best background, and it is the Tom Carlson background. Nothing. There is nothing there. So what is the advantage of having a black background? There is nothing to distract my viewers from me. I'm all they got. There's nothing else to look at.
My
So
comment is that if you pay $50 to go to an event in a auditorium, you want to see their face. If you're going to hear a speaker, you want to see their facial expressions. You don't want to be distracted by a background. I'll give you my own personal experience. I came back from China with the handmade needlepoint of the Great Wall. I was very proud of it. It's worth almost $4,000. I thought, I'll put that on the back behind my chair for my Toastmaster meetings. Do you know what happened? People asked me about the background. They didn't say anything about my speech. It was a distraction. It's gone. Nothing. So a background, I heard a guy give a fabulous speech about trout fishing. And his background was his library shelf, which was very impressive. I know the guy's got to be a well-read person, but it didn't relate to his subject. And I think that's important when you're giving a speech.
Okay. I'm just looking at Chris's background and Yuri's background. There is a little bit there, but there's not very much, is it? Okay, so just looking at it, oh, Chris, all right.
Ah,
So the other thing too is you can have fun with backgrounds. So one of the things that I demonstrated for Tom is that I can actually go in and as a Toastmaster timer, change my background to whatever color I want. I could make a green one, then change it to yellow, and then change it to red. Would you guys like a 30-second tutorial on how to easily do that?
I vote yes.
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 Okay, so if you've got Microsoft Paint, that's where I'm headed. And I'm going over here. I'm not sharing, am I?
No.
Okay, I'm
No.
gonna go ahead and share so you can see everything that I'm doing. So here I am. I'm just gonna minimize going over here and I'm going to type in paint. And there's the Paint app. All right, and here is my canvas. I can make it bigger, whatever. So I'm gonna go and I'm gonna make a green background. Say I'm gonna be a timer. So I'm choosing green, and then I'm gonna go over here to the fill, and I'm gonna fill that background with green. Why aren't we filling? Oh, I have to select. I shouldn't have to do that. Here's what I'm looking for. There it is. So I just made that green, and then I'm going to go to File, Save As, and I'm going to put it in a folder. I'm going to keep it in my Zoom folder. And I'm going to title it green. And now I can go to my background, choose a virtual background, and then add that image. Looking for green. Was that easy?
Yes,
You can also get those directly from Toastmasters from their website.
Oh, absolutely. So if you wanted a black background for yourself or a green background, you could certainly do that. And these are virtual backgrounds and solid colors. You could go and pick any particular photograph or picture and use that as your background too. The other thing is if you're giving a speech, you could, as a background, run a PowerPoint and put yourself in it and change backgrounds as part of your speech. So there are some fun things that you can do with this too.
I
So
wanted to save time, jump to some comments I wanted to make about lighting. If you have a room that has been already set up with lighting, there's probably not much that you can do with it. You might, and in most cases, the room lighting in a public room is probably acceptable. If the lighting in your room at home is the one that probably needs the most adjusting. I'm in a 10 by 12 foot room now, and I have only one light on. It's above my screen, and it shines on my face. And my background is blurred out. I think I've got the lighting about as good as it can be. You just have to experiment with that. But a light that is glaring from the ceiling can be a distraction. And somebody that's visiting your your club meeting and who has been in a lot of Zoom meetings isn't going to like that. If you've got a ceiling fan, if it has to be running, they're not going to like that. That's a distraction. Those are things that in what I call housekeeping has to be cleaned up. Because in the future, when we get to talking about promoting and getting visitors to our meeting, you may not know when some visitors are coming. And they may be there to scope out your Toastmaster Club meeting. It has to be good. So the housekeeping is important. I've been at some meetings where there was litter stacked up all over the room. Distracting. In plain words, housekeeping. So work with that. If you have a bright source of light behind the speaker, the camera is going to fight with that bright source of light and the camera light, and you're going to get an effect that's called a silhouette. And it's not going to complement the person that's being shown on the screen. So experiment with how you can get rid of these distractions. I stress that because when we get into some marketing in the future meetings or events, I'm hoping that we all have visitors coming to our website to watch our club meeting. If you can possibly figure out a way to greet them, to welcome them, at least when you go to a concert, at least the guy that tears your ticket in half and gives you the stub says, enjoy the concert. That's a greeting. I visited many Toastmaster Club meetings virtually, and there is no welcoming of people in the audience. I think that's important, and that's something should be done. So be thinking all the time. A way to clean up your Toastmaster meeting is think of the fact that you have some outsiders who are viewing your meeting and may become a visitor again and again. If you never see them, ask yourself, why didn't we see them again? Because it's important that we increase our membership, and we can and we will.
Tom, I
Okay.
think it's time for a shameless plug.
Okay,
And so what I'd like to do is just share my screen. Can everyone see that?
I can.
Great. Take a picture or bring out your cell phone, look at it with your camera, and follow the link. That will give you the information you need to attend a Speak TV meeting. Now at Speak TV, we're a little bit different than other clubs. We're a specialty club. We're not worried about getting this president distinguished. In fact, we rarely do any work at Speak TV on our Toastmaster education. We encourage you to do that through other clubs that you're a member of. Our club talks about working with media to understand video, audio, the internet, different types of social media as ways to further your speaking, whatever that is. Let me redefine further your speaking. Wouldn't it be great to monetize your speaking? Right, Sue? Take what
Yep,
you're doing.
Shameless Commerce Division here.
Absolutely. So we're talking about things like that. We're looking at things on the internet. We're evaluating videos. And before we go to the question and answer, I'm going to issue to everyone on this call and anyone who watches it recorded a video challenge. And it is simply this. I would like you to create a 30-second video that promotes your club. I would like you to record it and then put it on your Facebook or put it in a YouTube channel, but post a link in the District 35 Facebook group so people can see it. I would also recommend that you take this challenge back to your club and have every member do it. And I think that will make a difference. And I will just give you a quick example of what that looks like. Hello, my name is David Kocol, and I love being a Toastmaster. I've been a Toastmaster since 2008. I've been in many different clubs, and I've held a lot of elected positions. I've also learned a lot and grown my leadership skills through Toastmasters as well. But the biggest thing, my biggest takeaway, was learning in Toastmasters how to live outside my comfort zone. In 2010, I lost my son to suicide, and I had no way to deal with it other than how I had learned to live outside my comfort zone with Toastmasters. And I will be forever indebted for that. So if you want to learn some very important and valuable skills, come join us. We'd love to meet you. I'm David Kocol. Something like that. How long was I?
Very nice.
I didn't time it, but
I didn't time it either. That was good, David.
the
It
idea
was
though is
perfect,
that,
David.
pardon?
The timing was perfect.
Yeah, so it doesn't have to be long, because if we get much longer than that, and we talk about this at Speak TV, if you don't set a hook within that first 30 seconds, you've lost your viewer. In fact, we prefer that hook to be in the first 7. So I could have led with my son's suicide, but then that would have set a different mood. But I also made the point I wanted to make is that Toastmasters is more than just speaking, and it's more than just leadership. It is how people develop. And I don't know if we're getting that message out, because if we do, we're going to start building more members.
Right.
So
Thanks. I really appreciate the great information you got. Both of you guys have shared. We do have a couple comments in the chat window, and I want to make sure we've got an opportunity to address them in the time we have remaining.
okay.
Yeah. So Scott Swenson mentioned that he uses a tripod that has a light on it, but there's different color filters. And do you have any experience in dealing with filters to make the face seem natural?
Well, the least expensive filter that you can use is something that younger people may not know about, but us old timers, is wax paper. Wax paper will soften a light, and as long as the light doesn't get too hot and melt it, it'll diffuse light. It acts like a diffuser. So if you have no way to turn down a light or to use a lower wattage bulb, you might be able to diffuse it with wax paper as a simple remedy, or some other translucent filter. And if you add colors to it, you can change the emotion, literally what you want your readers or your viewers to feel. So when we start talking about getting into zeroing in on contests, and so color then even makes a difference too, along with the quality of the cameras.
All right, very good.
Did I answer that question, Scott?
I'll ask Scott if that was what he was looking for, if that was helpful.
Yeah, it was. Thank you. I'll try that wax paper idea. That's a good thought. And I do like the black background. I did that really quickly. I'll be playing with this. Like I said, I'm a warm flushed kind of facial thing. And so I'm really trying to figure out how to tone that down or cool that down a little bit more than coming online and scaring everybody with a red face.
So you just said the magic word, cool. And what you want then is a cool light. Now, if you go to a big box store like Lowe's and you take a look at their light bulbs, some of the more expensive bulbs have different rating. They will give a cooler or hotter rating. A hotter is going to bring out the reds. The cooler ones will mute the reds more and kind of bring out blue a little bit. So that may help you personally with that.
Great. I'll give that a shot. Thank you.
Sure.
I assume that a person with a dark skin would not look well on a black background.
Oh, we had some fun with Alan Edge on that.
It's true though, right? There's not a whole lot you can do, or is
It depends on the lighting. I don't think the color of your skin really makes that much of a difference if you're well lit. But if you blend into the background, like right now, I'm looking at Liz, and all I'm seeing from Liz is her face and her neck. And other than that, she kind of looks like she's a Chief Justice or something. Just because she blends in really well with her background.
I attended a meeting this last week with Liz, one of her clubs, and we should talk about the eye line. I would say there was probably 3 or 4 people at that meeting out of over 20 that I never saw anything below their forehead. How can that be fixed? That has to be fixed at the remote end, not the club meeting end.
No, actually, wherever people put their cameras, wherever they put their cameras. So you're talking about something like that?
Yes.
Or sometimes it's something like that.
Yes.
All right. So
That's important.
aesthetically, you more or less want to be centered, but you don't always have to be. I'm slightly off center, and sometimes that's more appealing. And it also allows me to have space with that palm tree. That's an imaginary thing. But you want to have, if people can't see your face, they will never trust you. And so if you're not visible and not seen, people want to trust you, but they may look for things that don't. Now, just even weird shadowy things. So I just block the light, and all of a sudden I don't have as much light. If I use half the light, so I've got one side of my face that's lighter than the other. That's not a bad thing. It adds contrast. That's a little too much light, but you'll notice that my camera is automatically changing to adapt to those lights too. And yours as well. Susan,
Well,
you look very white.
While you're giving your comments now, I have a comment about your background.
Okay.
It's a criticism. If
Please?
you're getting a fired up, inspirational, hell and brimstone fire, and your background is very relaxing. Would you agree that that's a good background for that kind of a speech?
I think the background has a lot to do with the type of speech you're giving. I like this one because it's cold in Wisconsin and I like warm. And so I'm helping people warm up.
Any more comments or questions, Keith?
There was a clarifying question from Yuri about the wax paper for filtering. And do you want to could you confirm where does one actually put the wax paper to?
Well, what you want to do is you want to cover the light that's coming out of a lamp. So let's say, for instance, that you have a swing arm desk lamp. You literally want to tape the wax paper across where the light comes out of the shade. Now, you have to be careful. In theater lighting, they use gels also to either filter or also to add color. But sometimes these lights get very hot and they can melt the wax paper or melt a spot in it. So you could also make a loop over your lamp. If you feel like it's too hot or too bright, you can take a piece of wax paper, instead of stretching it across from where you need it, you make a long loop and kind of let it hang. And that'll keep it away from the hot bulb. Generally, anything below 100 watt, though, you should be fine with using wax paper with. 100 watt might, but they're hard to find now. And if you're using LEDs, LEDs aren't not going to give off as much light, but they're a lot more fuel efficient.
I have a couple more comments I wanted to make. And to me, maybe it's me, but distractions are important. If you were paying $50 to go to a concert, would you spend most of your time this way? Do you have to have a drink every 2 minutes from your break? One way to solve that, and I use this, I have a straw, so I don't have to tip it up, and I just take a sip. Another thing that's a distraction that I see when some of the people are not on the talking end of the scene.
Oh no, Tom, where are you going?
That's a distraction. When you go to a concert and sit for an hour and a half, you sit for an hour and a half. You don't get up every 5 minutes and go get a drink. Or if I get up often, I have to take it off from the picture of my image and go to the boys' room and hope I remember why I went there. But I think distraction, again, I keep coming back to this. When we get into some promotion ideas, you might have, and I hope you have, foreigners, outsiders visiting your meeting frequently. And I don't mean that one person coming frequent times, but different people coming. We want our hybrid meetings to look good at all times.
Yep. Yuri, you have your hand up. Do you have a comment or a question?
Yes, I have a question. In the rooms that I have been, I noticed that when we set up the room, we set up in a way where there is a makeshift podium on top of which, or lectern, on top of which the laptop is sitting, and then the person stands behind the lectern, and then when they're speaking, and some of the people in the room, in the physical room, are kind of seeing the chairs that are on the other side of the lectern. What happens then is the person is staying behind the podium or lectern, is their face is not visible because it's kind of hidden by the laptop cover, if laptop lid, if you can picture that. Now, this particular room is rather small, and there's not much you can do about that. I'm wondering how far away can the podium be moved? What I'm picturing is to have the podium behind the last chair where the person is sitting in the audience level, and then the camera hopefully might still show the person that is speaking, which hopefully it will, but then the audience in the room itself will see the person speaking, they will see their face. I'm wondering if Scott or Tom, you can share anything about that. What if that's what have you seen tried to allow the face to be seen to those in the room?
David, I'll confer to you.
All right, and I think that's an excellent question. When we're talking about hybrid meetings, you're going to have people in the room, but then you're also going to have people remotely. When we were doing Speak TV meetings, live and in person, and we would have videos, we would actually encourage all of our speakers to record a video and then share their speech that way. So we actually are directing them to the screen rather than live. And what you gain from that is that the camera captures it, and the speaker also gets to see what they look like, because otherwise you may not know. So you could have the speaker, you could have the audience turn, the live audience turn to look at the speaker, but then they would probably have their backs to the camera. So it's a matter of opinion. You could do it either way. I don't think there's any wrong way. And I think, like a lot of these advice we're giving you, experiment with it and try and see what you like. Does that help you at all?
It helps, even if it's as you said, experiment, and I'll try that next time I have the meeting. It just kind of I thought of that because it's some of the points you raised. They kind of prompted me to think of the question, and I'll bring it back to that particular club and see if we can experiment with placing the makeshift lectern elsewhere, just to see the speaker in the room better for those of us that are in the room with the speaker.
So what it may come down to, Yuri, is how many people are joining remotely and how many are in the room. If you've got 12 coming in remotely and there's only 3 in the room, you could cater to those that are remote. But if there's only 1 or 2 remotes and there's 10 people in the room, then you can do it more for the people that are there.
This one is more like relatively equal balance. There's last time there were 4, including me, and then there were 2 or 3 people joining remotely, and they could see the speaker who was standing. It was looking at them. It was a wall between the speaker was between a wall, kind of the actual building wall, and then the lectern on top of which the computer sat. And then the proper remote individuals could see a speaker fine. But those of us who were sitting in the room in the chairs were essentially looking at the other end of the podium or lectern, and that's prevented me, for one, from seeing the head of the speaker because the lid of the computer was raised high enough, and the podium was, and then even the lectern, we took a bunch of cubes that we put on top of a table, and then because they had to be a certain height, otherwise the speaker would be looking down at the laptop like this, and they would not be able to. Their sight would be affected. But for those of us in the room, our vision was kind of blocked by these kind of cubes that were on top of which the computer sat, and that prevented me from seeing the speaker better, just as a way to share what I kind of what I observed.
Okay.
But
Are you,
I'll try it out and see what we can do. Maybe we
are
can,
you,
yeah.
are you a member of our district?
Yes, I am a
Well-
member of 3 clubs. I'm a division director, and I also visit another club in Division A frequently because I was the area director last year for them. And kind of taking up on pretty much being a regular, and I'm helping them among other things to do better with the hybrid meeting format.
Okay, the reason I asked is that one of the things that Tom and I were talking about is to help get some of this knowledge out there. We entertained the thought of maybe doing a little technology roadshow and doing little workshops in different areas of the state to set up a meeting and talk about the technology that goes into it and best practices and ways to try to pull this off with a minimum of cost and a maximum effectiveness.
That sounds good. I mean, if you're looking for a name of a club, I can think of at least 2 or 3. Well, Scott, uh, where are you located?
Oh, I live in Wisconsin. No, I live in Milwaukee.
Okay, then we can we meet on a place on Highway 100 Blue Mound near the Milwaukee Zoo.
Oh, I'd love to come and visit your club.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
why don't
do-
you guys, exchange contact information? Because we are kind of running near the end of our time, and I know Liz has had her hand up. She's been waiting patiently, and I'd like to see her question or comment addressed.
Thank you. I think I might like to call on both David and Todd. I am used to very well-run hybrid meetings, which have an expensive owl. And I know those are 900 to maybe 1,500 bucks, and the district has one. And David, I know your wife has one too from the Audubon Society. Todd, you were talking about having multiple Facebook cameras and how it would follow. I guess if I want to zoom into a meeting, I don't want to feel like the poor cousin showing up. I like seeing lots of people and what's happening in the room. How does Facebook allow you to do that? Or is that something that a club that's on more of a shoestring budget could do with Facebook or other ways? Can you tell us about that quickly?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
I think Todd put in the chat that they were doing it somewhere, so maybe he can answer. I'm not sure if I understood his comment correctly.
I know zero about Facebook.
I was just mentioning that I was in Susan's club when I was visiting Wisconsin last weekend. We did a club raid, and her home club had 4 Facebook portals as their cameras looking into and around the room, and that they had a small either camera or a portal looking at the person who was at the lectern. So you really didn't feel like you were disconnected from the room. And if you wanted to feel like you were still in the room, you could look up on the wall and see Susan when she was the president of the club addressing the club in one of the boxes. So there was like 5 boxes along with the 6 or 7 people that were in the room, like in the the tic-tac-toe room, and you could see them all, and all the different boxes were moving as people were moving around the room, going from the back of the room to the front of the room when they were taking their spot at the lectern in the front. So they just did a really good job. So I just wanted to give her a shout out.
So was that a live Facebook meeting then, or how were you doing that?
We were using meta portals. So we own 2 in our club, and then 2 of our members bought some for a different club, and they brought it to ours, and we set it up that evening kind of as an experiment. But several months ago, we purchased meta portals because we couldn't afford the owls that we wanted to have, and these are a lot less expensive. I think they were under 150 a piece, or 2 for 150, I forget. I think we went to Best Buy and got a couple. And they track you, they follow with the sound, they follow with the picture, and we're very happy with them. We just need to practice and get to use them as far as spacing and lighting goes.
Okay, so Meta is the new word for Facebook. Are we talking about that as Meta, M-E-T-A?
And this is a product you purchase.
That is
Right,
correct.
but it's specifically intended to go with Facebook, which is no longer called Facebook. It's actually called Meta. Just FYI.
I'm not a Facebook user, so I'm sure you're correct. Although I don't know that the people that sell this did this because they wanted it to hook directly to Facebook, or if because they're losing a whole market share if they're just doing that. Because I would buy one for a club that was not a Facebook type club and still take advantage of the things that it can do. So yeah, you're there, Meta. Well, the Meta portal, you'd probably find it better if you went to Amazon and looked up Meta
Oh,
portal.
right, but I'm more concerned about the software. David might more know. Again,
I can't address that.
They were using Zoom. They were using Zoom, and basically the portal was just like a standing up tablet with its camera in it, directing itself. Like, so basically they logged in each portal to like the Zoom ID and the password. They turned off the microphones and only left one microphone on one portal open during the meeting.
Right.
So what does that have to do with Facebook? I'm confused now. I apologize.
Nothing.
Cool. All right. Just because they said it was a Facebook thing. That's why I'm like, okay, Meta is Facebook. So that was where my confusion was.
So it's striking me here that we've got a lot of other topics that we could really explore, and maybe an idea here is to have another session like this, and maybe in advance pick some very specific things that we can get into, because the idea of hybrid meetings, as you can all tell, it covers a wide array of things for which we don't have enough time tonight. So I did see Jason had his hand up. Jason, did you have a quick comment before we finish up here?
Yeah, I was just going to very quickly comment. You know, my community club, we use a webcam and a decent quality speakerphone. Actually, the ones I'm using right now from my personal office at home. We use that for the room, and that runs the audio. We use one laptop for that, and then we put one laptop on the lectern, and then we have a really inexpensive projector that we project, so that to potentially address what Yuri was talking about, we project the person that's speaking at the lectern as well, in case we feel the laptop's getting in their way. But we use that camera, then a room camera, and have two laptops is how my community club sets it up, and that seems to work really well for us. So,
Which club is that, Jason?
it's the Pewaukee Club.
It's another club I want to go visit.
Okay, so I'm gonna circle back with David and Tom and see if we can do another one of these sessions if they're willing, and maybe pick some very focused areas that we can talk about next time. So I found this very useful. I'd like to thank Tom, thank David for their time tonight, and of course thank everyone here who showed up and contributed. And hope you got something out of it.
I do too.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, David.
All right. Thanks everyone.
One more thing I wanted to mention real quick, and that is Speak TV is the place to be.
All right.
Shameless
Thanks a lot.
Self-promotion.
Have a good evening, everyone.
Thank you. I think so.
Thank you.